Hey, she's finally here. Legendary Caeda. And with her, the whole effectiveness plus vantage shenanigans. Let's find out how good or worth she is in this impressions. Let's do this.
Let the lesson begin.
What's up guys, Akariss here, bringing another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is our impressions and reactions on Legendary Caeda, plus where I feel she pretty much lies in terms of viability, without knowing the stats and whatnot, which I'll cover in a more detailed analysis. So yeah, I'm going to go over this banner, I'm going to look at Caeda, and just give my initial impressions on this, but look forward to the analysis and more should you pull on the Legendary banner coming up. If hopefully we get the stats before the banner drops. If we don't, that's fine. I will hypothetical guess based on young Caeda and of course Summer Caeda as well. But I'll wait for this one a little bit before doing that. Now, a couple of things I wanted to mention. First of all, there is going to be another one of those community polls, so I do recommend you go check out the community tab on the YouTube channel here and give yourself a vote on whether you're going to be summoning on this banner, sparking and whatnot, and your justification for doing so. Especially with Hero Rises coming pretty soon, I'd be shocked to even see that many of you are summoning here, but I am curious to collect that data, so go and give yourself a vote if you haven't already. Yeah. Another thing, I have been predicting this one for quite a while, and if you didn't see the calendar review video, finally, Caeda is here. Now, I guess we're pretty much waiting on Legendary Xander, and to contrast to Ryoma. And another thing, of course, is that they are pretty much not doing Legendary Mythic back and forth. Next month has been confirmed to be another Legendary hero. So this is interesting. I guess Legendaries just probably sell better than Mythics do. Stuff like Alamine and Brammy and Ashera, I guess, just don't sell as well. And they do want to focus on OCs, but even the OCs like Odor can be pretty hit or miss. So yeah, here we are with Caeda instead. Alright, so yeah, before I jump into playing the video and talk about Caeda herself, please do what you can, and it really does mean a lot to show me that you love this content by smashing the like button, as it is an F2P way to support the channel, and that's what we are here. Subbing, if you haven't already, also really helps. It gives me the data I need to keep churning out these videos, just like that like button. Finally, these videos are possible because of you kind folks on Patreon, so go check out maybe the Patreon description below if you want to support the content, and Twitch streams are also a good way, or the join button on YouTube. Everything helps, and those guys that choose to do that are the reason that I'm still here day after day. That's it for my beginning spiel here on the introductions. Let's see what Caeda brings to the table. So, beloved queen. And to be honest, it's been a while since we've had one of these. Because I think like Legendary Tiki was like the last time we had a new Mystery of the Emblem, or Mystery of the Emblem Legendary. Not including Naga, who is a mythic. So anyways, so here we have a Blue Lance Flyer Legendary. This is cool because for a class that's so common, like in the GHBs and in the pool in general, it's kind of nice to see we're finally getting like a premium, super premium version of a Lance Flyer, I suppose. And another thing you'll note here actually is the water pair-up blessing has changed a little bit. Now on a first guess there, I'm just going to assume that they're going to be adding speed to the pair-up blessings now, or like in this case it's speed, but they'll probably add defense, res, attack, etc. This is just a means to kind of make these pair-up legendaries a bit different from the past pair-up legendaries, and make them, I guess, a strict upgrade over the really old legendaries. Where if you didn't realize this, the really old legendaries that were pre-pair-up didn't, like, they gave stats, they gave speed, they gave defense, res, and attack, and now with the remix, they sometimes can be better than some of the pair-up legendaries. I'm looking at you, Roy. So it's interesting as this being like a sort of upgrade to that and saying like, okay, here's your pair-up legendary, they score really well, and now they'll buff stats. I think that's my guess on this. I could be wrong, but I could see that being the natural progression of better legendaries. One other thing to note is that Caeda should be a progressive line in higher scoring legendary as well, as every year they increase that whole scoring that they provide in Arena by another multiple of 5. If you don't know what I mean, basically Chrom had more scoring than the previous pair-up legendaries in his skill, like his arena definition there. text blurb. Then you had Legendary Claude, and now we have Legendary Caeda, who's also going to probably be the next step up in a score increase. This does mean that she's going to break new boundaries and score higher than any other water legendary currently in the game. Considering Byleth, Dimitri, and Chrom have pretty much been here for quite a while at the top scoring, this was probably necessary in water season for like new players, and I guess even people who just wanted an upgrade on their legendary to have something to aim for. So she's going to be desirable, at least from a scoring perspective, in Arena or Allegiance battles, Arena Assault, whatever, the scoring modes in general. Okay, so a lot of stuff to talk about here, and I'd say, where do we begin? I'd say let's focus on Fodder first, and I'll talk about the preference skills. So in terms of what she brings to the table, attack, defense, rain is it's pretty good, but I wouldn't see yourself foddering her for that. If you picked up like Distance Storm and attack, defense, rain, because I'm pretty sure that this connects to distant counter, then that's decent fodder for, let's say, a flyer. Distance Storm is pretty much the opposite to what Close Salvo was, where New Valentine's Chrom had that recoil and 5 attack, where Distance Storm has 5 attack, the recoil damage, and distant counter. Now, when we look at the kit overall, this isn't too bad of a distant counter skill. I'm not a huge fan of putting tanks with recoil skill, such as like distant pressure. Like, that doesn't work too well, but I have admired the utility provided with something like Close Salvo and Vantage. That is pretty solid synergy, and Distance Storm should pretty much help with that, as recoil is desirable anyways for Vantage strategies. So with her, it's going to be different, because honestly she doesn't really have these HP conditions to talk about. But yeah, let's go over this. So preference B skill does mean that she's going to score really well. She's going to break the boundaries of scoring needed for water legendaries for sure, and I will likely cover her in comparison to the other water legendaries, how I'd rank them, like an updated kind of tier list for water legendaries in the upcoming analysis of her, and more of the community should you pull video. That'll be next. But yeah, so B skill, Faithful Loyalty. This is a preference B skill. Basically, it's saying if an armored or a cav foe initiates combat onto her, she's going to attack first. She pretty much just has Vantage on armored and cav foes. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody like Brave Hector or new Ascended Thune can like break through that because they negate armor effectiveness. No, she's still actually going to attack first on those characters. She just won't have the effective damage that her weapon has. Additionally, she has the neutralize effects that prevent her follow-up attacks during combat. That's basically just a self-null follow-up effect, so the characters that deny her follow-ups, such as Brave Hector and Ascended Attune, won't really work against her, and she's going to Vantage, and she's going to still get her double after, of course, they attack. But here is the cool part here, which is if she attacks, like after this condition is set up, she is going to get Vantage as a like buff, like a visible buff, like what a dual skill does, like a Vantage or ground orders. It ends up being a buff on her that lasts the turn. What this means is, like, on player phase, she can actually attack into stuff and set up like an enemy phase Vantage. This is interesting because I don't consider Vantage a very like meta-ish strat right now. It finds some use in Aether Raids offense, I guess. It could be used in air defense, especially against bolt tower strategies, and it can be used in Summoner Duels if your opponent isn't ready for it. Now with SDS, where you can counterpick or like ban teams, it's pretty obvious when the other team is running something like Vantage. So what this does tell me is that she's going to be very, very, very strong, I'd say, in player hands, where you can make total use of that whole Vantage gimmick that she's bringing to the table, especially with like her kit being synergistic of that. She has extra attack on the distant counter, she has attack, defense, rain, and of course she has like pretty much a 100% HP condition on Vantage. Of course, it is a little bit conditional in the way that she has to at least attack to set up her Vantage, or you're relying on armored or cav foes on the enemy phase. One thing she's definitely lacking is going to be damage piercing, like damage reduction piercing, and there's no way for her to attain this, so she's still going to struggle, I feel, against certain characters that have this, like such as Fallen Edelgard. Believe it or not, the whole 40% DR that Fallen Edelgard has could end up like stopping Caeda from killing her, and then because of that she attacks and ends up, you know, getting her bonfire charged where she might not have had a charge and then just ends up one-shotting her. So there's definitely some matchups where I don't feel like it's that great. If she had something that pierced the damage reduction, or if she even had a sort of like legendary set-off effect where she attacked twice before the enemy attacked, like a Vantage Brave would have made her really strong. But I don't see her having like the most amazing matchups in the world. She's still going to struggle against some certain things. Now, weapon-wise, she doesn't have effective against everything. She has effective against armored and cav only, which is still really good, mind you, since they are very prevalent type of movement types for anywhere. Like, you're going to see them in every mode. She gets to Canto 2, which is great. So Canto is always good, and it's going to make her very viable in pretty much AR offense, Arena, of course, in your hands, and Summoner Duels for sure. I could see her being very good in all three of those modes. She's not going to be something you'd probably want in AR defense. I can't really see it there. And honestly, Arena, where she's designed, I don't feel she's going to be too big of a threat, unless your lineup is pretty much armored and calves only. And yeah, even then you probably have some solutions there. Caeda herself doesn't historically have a super high attack stat. Even the most recent Summer Caeda is still at about like 33 attack base, I believe, which isn't that high considering she's fairly recent on a release. So she's gonna not really Vantage everything one hit. It's the same problem like young Caeda had, where a lot of people thought, oh my god, she's Vantaging basically everything with effective against everything. If she doesn't kill, then she struggles pretty much. And that's what the same problem I could see with this variant of Caeda. So, as you can see here, her conditions on her weapon are, as long as the enemy, if she initiates or she's within 2 spaces of an ally, she gains that 5 to all stats. That's expected. And she gains more stats and debuffs on foes if the enemy has bonuses. The attack speed defense has bonuses. So this is kind of like a I don't really know what to call it, but if you're buffed, then I punish you type effect, where I'm going to get stronger, you get weaker if you use buffs. This is pretty nice, but it's a little inconsistent as well because you're relying on the enemy using these buffs. I think it's better in something like Arena usage, where you can expect your foes to use buffs, or maybe even Summoner Duels, where again, you can kind of expect them to use buffs. It's still pretty good, but it's not amazing, and I probably put her as fairly good, but not that difficult to deal with if you run into her, especially if you have the right compositions for it, whether that's Arena or Summoner Duels. If she becomes prevalent in something like that, honestly, Hardy Bearing, and even something like Fallen Edelgard, I could see her having a trouble dealing with. So yeah, here we go. We got the banner coming up with Sothis here, Leaf, Edelgard, Corrin, Triandra, Regan, and Note, Malice, Faye, Ascended Legyarn, and Astrid. Okay. So, as we'll see in a moment, this banner does last about 2 weeks, so there's plenty of time to kind of wait to see how things go between it and new banners. It's not, I wouldn't even call this anywhere near a first day kind of or a must pull by any means before we even get to a should you pull or analysis on her. She's a great unit for breaking scoring boundaries. I think as a one-off she'll be very powerful, but honestly it isn't a must pull or needed it's not like a legendary Sigurd type of legendary by any degree. In terms of the colors here, blue is obviously pretty good, especially if you're building legendaries from scratch or trying to get into Arena, where both Faye and Caeda are going to be great additions for your water and earth cores. Note is also the best defense mythic probably in the game. I don't think there's anything that rivals that. But also Note is going to be on a permanent banner pretty soon, where she can just be sparked even if you're not a Vet Pass player. So again, it depends. And merges on Note aren't necessarily that useful compared to some offense mythics, such as the current Plumeria banner. So yeah. And we might even get Thor on Hero Rises. As of this video, we don't know if Thor makes it, but she could also end up being a pretty solid pickup in the coming Hero Rises. Now, The other colors are going to be subjective based on your own goals, I'd say. So stuff like Leaf and Corn could be good if any of those are your legendaries, especially sharing with Ascended Legyarn, who's a decent unit by today's means. Green doesn't look too great since it has a little bit more outdated stuff in the form of Edelgard and Triandra, but if you don't have Triandra, then it could be worth a spark just to improve your defense if you feel like your dark defense is in trouble. And then in terms of red, we have probably the weakest lineup, and I'd say most people are skipping there, in the form of Sothis, Malus, and Regan. So yeah, that's pretty weak, but yeah, feel free to let me know in the comments below what you think of this banner. Hit up the community tab and vote there. And of course, in the coming days, I'm going to be a little bit patient, wait to see if we get some stats or an update before the banner drops. If that's not the case, then you can expect a speculative stats video where I'm going to try to give you a full analysis on where I feel she is, some sample builds, and of course, what you guys think overall. Thank you for watching as always, folks. Love you all, and I'll see you very soon. Peace.
It's over.